It was pouring rain in downtown Seattle when he slipped through the police barricade, completely unseen by anyone. Officers stood just feet away, radios crackling with urgent commands, flashlights cutting through the downpour like searchlights in a war zone. But none of them saw him. Not a single witness could explain how it happened. One moment, the fugitive was surrounded by 12 armed officers in a secure perimeter. The next, he was gone, swallowed by the storm as if he had never existed at all. This is the story of Daniel "Ghost" Henriksen, a man who turned a routine courthouse transfer into one of the most baffling disappearances in modern law enforcement history. And it all began on a night when the weather became his greatest accomplice. On the rain-soaked evening of March the 17th, 2022, Daniel Henriksen was being transported from the King County Correctional Facility to the federal courthouse in downtown Seattle. He was no ordinary prisoner. At 34 years old, Henriksen had built a reputation as a master forger and identity thief, responsible for defrauding banks and corporations out of an estimated $4.7 million over 7 years. What made him truly dangerous, however, wasn't just his criminal skill, it was his background. Before turning to crime, Henriksen had served 6 years as a logistics specialist in the United States Army, where he learned tactical evasion, surveillance countermeasures, and field survival techniques. He understood how law enforcement thought. He knew their protocols, their blind spots, their weaknesses. Detective Rachel Osborne of the Seattle Police Department had been tracking Henriksen for 18 months before his arrest. She knew he was dangerous, unpredictable, and extraordinarily intelligent. "He doesn't make mistakes," she told her team during a briefing. "He creates situations where we make mistakes." That night, as the rain hammered against the windows of the transport van, her words would prove devastatingly accurate. The transport consisted of 2 armed deputies, 4 Seattle police officers in escort vehicles, and a communications link to Central Dispatch. The route had been planned with precision, 3 miles through downtown Seattle, avoiding high-traffic areas and potential choke points. It should have been routine. It should have been safe. At 7:53 in the evening, the transport convoy departed the correctional facility. Henriksen sat in the back of the armored van, wrists and ankles shackled, separated from the deputies by a reinforced steel partition. His face showed no emotion, no fear, no anxiety, nothing. Just calm. Outside, the rain intensified into a full-blown storm. Visibility dropped to less than 50 feet. Traffic slowed to a crawl as windshield wipers struggled against sheets of water cascading from the sky. The convoy made steady progress for the first 15 minutes, navigating through the industrial district near the waterfront. Then, at exactly 8:11, everything changed. A delivery truck, later identified as a stolen vehicle, ran a red light at the intersection of 4th Avenue and Marion Street, directly into the path of the lead police escort. The collision was violent, metal shrieking, glass exploding, the lead vehicle spinning sideways across the wet pavement. The transport van screeched to a halt. Behind it, the second escort vehicle slammed on its brakes, hydroplaning slightly before stopping just inches from the van's rear bumper. Chaos erupted instantly. Officers radioed for backup. Traffic came to a standstill. Pedestrians scrambled for cover under awnings and storefronts. And in the back of the transport van, Daniel Henriksen began to move. What happened next remains disputed. According to Deputy Frank Martinez, who was seated in the passenger compartment of the van, Henriksen appeared to suffer a medical emergency. He began convulsing violently, foam appearing at the corners of his mouth, his body jerking against the restraints. Martinez immediately radioed for medical assistance while his partner, Deputy Sarah Bloom, unlocked the partition to assess the situation. It was a decision that would haunt them both. The moment the partition opened, Henriksen stopped convulsing. His eyes snapped open, clear and focused. In one fluid motion, he kicked out with both legs, striking Bloom in the chest and sending her crashing backward into Martinez. Before either deputy could react, Henriksen had his shackled hands on a tactical baton that had fallen during the collision. He wasn't trying to hurt them, he was buying seconds. Henriksen wedged the baton into the van's rear door mechanism and twisted with all his strength. The lock, weakened by the impact of the collision, gave way with a metallic snap. The doors burst open, and Henriksen tumbled out into the rain-soaked street. He landed hard, shackles still binding his wrists and ankles, but he didn't hesitate. He rolled to his feet and began moving. The scene outside was pandemonium. Officers were focused on the collision at the front of the convoy. Bystanders were pressed against storefronts, shielding themselves from the rain. And in the confusion, Henriksen simply limped into the crowd, hunched over, moving with purpose, but not panic. To anyone watching, he looked like another civilian caught in the chaos, a man trying to get out of the storm. Detective Osborne received the alert at 8:14, just 3 minutes after the collision. Prisoner escaped, the radio crackled. Henriksen is on foot, shackled, last seen heading east on Marion Street. She felt her stomach drop. She knew Henriksen had planned this. The collision, the medical emergency, the timing, it was all orchestrated. Set up a perimeter, she barked into her radio. 6-block radius. I want every exit covered. Roadblocks on every major street. Deploy K-9 units and helicopter support immediately. Within minutes, Seattle Police Department mobilized every available resource. 12 patrol units converged on the area. A helicopter lifted off from the precinct rooftop, thermal cameras scanning the streets below. K-9 units arrived, German shepherds straining at their leashes, eager to pick up a set. But Henriksen had already disappeared. Witnesses reported seeing a man matching his description near a parking garage on 5th Avenue, but by the time officers arrived, he was gone. Another witness claimed to have seen someone limping toward Pioneer Square, but a sweep of the area turned up nothing. The rain was working in his favor, washing away scent trails and reducing visibility to almost zero. Officers searched dumpsters, alleys, building lobbies, anywhere a man in shackles might hide. But Henriksen wasn't hiding. He was moving. According to later analysis by law enforcement experts, Henriksen likely had a pre-planned escape route and assistance waiting. Investigators believe he made contact with an accomplice. Within minutes of escaping the van, someone who provided bolt cutters to remove the shackles and dry clothing to blend in with the crowd. At 8:37, a patrol officer spotted a pile of prison-issued clothing and severed shackles in an alley behind a hotel on 3rd Avenue. The clothes were still warm. Henriksen had been there minutes earlier. Detective Osborne arrived on scene, rain streaming down her face as she examined the evidence. "He's changing his appearance," she said quietly. "He knows we're looking for someone in orange. He's already someone else." The search intensified. Plainclothes officers flooded into nearby bars, restaurants, and hotels, showing Henriksen's photo to employees and patrons. Roadblocks expanded to a 12-block radius. transit stations were locked down. Every bus, taxi, and rideshare vehicle leaving the area was stopped and searched. But Henriksen remained a ghost. At 9:05, nearly an hour after the escape, a breakthrough came. A barista at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the alley reported a man matching Henriksen's description, clean-shaven, wearing a dark jacket and baseball cap, who had entered the shop, used the restroom, and left without ordering anything. Security footage confirmed it was him. He looked calm, composed, even slightly amused. He walked out the front door and turned south, disappearing once again into the rain-drenched streets. "He's playing with us," one officer muttered, and he was right. Henriksen wasn't running blindly. He was executing a plan. At 9:28, officers received a tip from a homeless man who had seen someone matching Henriksen's description entering a parking garage near the waterfront. A tactical team rushed to the location, weapons drawn, flashlights sweeping through rows of parked cars. The garage was silent, except for the echo of rain drumming against concrete. Officers moved methodically, checking inside vehicles, behind pillars, under stairwells. Then, on the 3rd level, they found him. Or so they thought. A figure stood near the edge of the garage, silhouetted against the rain, facing away from the approaching officers. "Police. Don't move, hands in the air." The figure slowly raised his hands and turned around. It wasn't Henriksen. It was a decoy, a homeless man, wearing a jacket identical to the one Henriksen had been seen in, paid $50 to stand in that exact spot at that exact time. The real Henriksen had already slipped past the perimeter. While officers were converging on the garage, he was boarding a ferry at Pier 52, just 4 blocks away. By the time law enforcement realized the mistake, the ferry was already halfway across Elliott Bay, carrying Daniel Henriksen toward freedom. Daniel Ghost Henriksen vanished that night and remained at large for 6 months before being apprehended in Vancouver, Canada, living under a false identity. His capture came not from a brilliant investigative breakthrough, but from a routine traffic stop where his fabricated documents failed to match database records. When arrested, Henriksen was calm, almost philosophical. "You can't stop someone who understands the system better than the people running it," he told Detective Osborne during interrogation. He never revealed the identity of his accomplice or how he coordinated the escape. To this day, those details remain unknown. What made Henriksen's escape so remarkable wasn't luck, it was preparation. He exploited the chaos of the collision, the limitations of human perception during a crisis, and the natural cover provided by the storm. He understood that law enforcement operates on predictable protocols, and he designed his escape to exploit those patterns. His military training gave him the discipline to remain calm under pressure, while his criminal experience taught him how to disappear in plain sight. It was a masterclass in tactical evasion. But Henriksen's story didn't end with his capture. During his interrogation, he made a chilling statement. "You only caught me because I let you." What did he mean? And was there another escape he had been planning all along? Subscribe now to follow the world's most daring escapes and uncover the truth behind the criminals who outsmarted the system. This is Escape Intelligence, where every story is real, every detail matters, and every escape leaves you questioning what's possible.